Hey everyone, this is Mike with another live episode of Shelf Life, our second attempt at this. I got my whole rig figured out, so hopefully you're seeing this and hearing this clearly, unlike the handheld monstrosity of last time. It's interesting to look back at a month ago, and I was like, oh, I'll just have my family go to a store or a bookstore while I'm recording this, so that you don't have to worry about them making noise. And now we're in the middle of the COVID-19 crisis, and they're clearly at home with me, so they're watching the show. Hopefully it won't be too loud, but if you hear a few ripples or rumbles or anything like that, that is why. But yeah, this is Shelf Life. We're going to look at games from last year, October and November. And we're only doing 8 this time. I slowed it down a little bit because I was worried about outpacing the content I'm creating. I'm covering 8 to 10 games a month, so doing not quite 10 is a little bit easier for me. And good, okay, people are saying they're here from the start. Thanks for joining, Dave and Luis, and everything sounds good. Glad to hear it. So I'm going to go through the 8 games, talk about whether I kept them or I'm getting them out of my collection. I'm going to try to do that a little bit faster than last time for those who are just here for that content. And then if anybody wants to, we can do like a little question and answer session at the end. But I will still kind of respond to comments as we go. Hey, James, thanks for joining. But we're going to mostly push through and talk about the games. So the first one on the list, this is from October of last year, is the adventure game series by Kosmos. They have released 2 of these so far, a dungeon-themed one and a sort of Resident Evil-esque monochrome ink one. And the question for this one was not whether I was keeping those 2, because those are basically one-and-done play experiences, kind of like unlocks or exits, but whether I was going to keep investing in the series in the future. So I don't have any boxes for those, because I already passed those on to other people. But I loved it, my game group loved it, my son really enjoyed playing through the dungeon one with me. Hey, Tom. So I'm definitely keeping the adventure games. Again, I don't have a box to hold up, but I think these are great. I think it's a longer experience than one of these escape room things like Unlock or Exit. It takes like 2 to 3 hours to finish in different acts, so you can stop as you go along. Hey, Nick. Hey, Aoricus. Sorry if I said that wrong. And they tell a good story, like they have nice narrative. You actually interact with characters, so it feels like a less lonely experience than some of these other kind of puzzly games. But yeah, so the adventure game series, definitely a keep. So number 1, we're starting on a positive. That is in. And thanks everybody for joining. We're just going through the games. We'll have a question and answer at the end if you'd like to. Sorry, just getting my list up here. All right, so next was Tapestry. This is the Stonemaier game, the latest from Stonemaier. This is supposedly a Civilization game. I think some people might criticize the game for how much Civilization it has. Oh, cool. Enrique just said Everdell's doing a new solo set of rules. I love Everdell, so I'd like to see that. But yeah, so did I keep Tapestry? And in this case, I also don't have a box, but that's because I already got rid of it. I think I traded it to somebody. Tapestry was fine. Like I said in my review, I think it's got some cool stuff going on. It is very simple and very streamlined. So if you want a Civ-themed game, then yeah, like Tapestry is pretty cool. But I didn't find it that exciting. I found it got pretty samey. And I'm not, if you talk, listen to the podcast, you know I'm not a huge Euro fan. Yeah, exactly. Louis said it's not a Civ game. I kind of agree. So it's fine for what it is. If you like a track game and like kind of developing along your tracks, then Tapestry might be good for you. But for me, it kind of got boring. It's a pretty big box, so I passed it along to somebody else. So adventure games I kept. Tapestry I did not. Next is Horrified from Ravensburger. This is one of the Prospero Hall like kind of streamlined thematic games they've been doing recently. We just did a podcast on Wonder Woman this morning that got posted. So Horrified. I played this a lot with my son. I played it with my wife. This is the Universal Monsters, and basically you're trying to defeat 2 to 4 of them, depending on what difficulty level you're on. You already let go of a game, Jan. Tapestry's already gone. So, Horrified was a tough one, and I'll say for this shelf life, since I've been home with my family a lot more than I would normally be, since I'm currently off from work. We're starting teaching with remote learning on Monday, because I'm a high school teacher, for those who don't know. Yeah, so Horrified, I played it a bunch. It's one of the ones I tried to revisit. And my wife kind of liked it. And didn't seem like excited to play currently, but it's not going to stay. So I'm counting this as a gone because, again, with my son's not interested, I just don't see this getting enough play. My wife wasn't against it, but she's not going to be going out of her way to request it, clearly. Like, she didn't love it. Can you play Horrified solo? Sure. You can do multi-handed, but you can't have a single investigator, so not what people call true solo for that one. So that's Horrified gone. 2 gone, 1 kept. What is next on our list? Perdition's Mouth. Perdition's Mouth. Yeah, so if you don't know this game, it is a dungeon crawler, but it's very different. It's got a rondelle to kind of activate how enemies move and do their stuff. So that's how kind of Perdition's Mouth works. It's cool core mechanic. But it's also like a very tough dungeon crawler where things get harder and harder. Yeah, I am noticing Jan just commented. There is a pretty big delay here, so I'll comment on things you said a little bit late. Sorry about that. You might talk about a game after I've already discussed it. So Perdition's Mouth, I had some good things, but I said in my review it was very much not for me. Now, oh my god, this one's heavy. I do still have it, but specifically because the designer who sent it to me, I was trying to be nice since, I didn't really love the game. So I said that I would ship it on to somebody else, and they could review it as well to kind of like do a consolation, not a consolation prize, a goodwill gesture. But he hasn't gotten back to me about who he wants me to send it to yet, so it's just kind of hanging out in my house. If he doesn't tell me in a while, I might just trade it away or something. But yeah, Perdition's Mouth, it could be good. I know a lot of people love it. It definitely has a more puzzly nature with the rondelle and how movement works. I liked all of that. But the difficulty balancing, I think, is a little bit of a mess. If you don't mind that kind of thing, it's okay. So yeah, and it was like a little bit too punishing. I didn't really have fun playing it, so that was a big negative for me. All right. So that's Perdition's Mouth gone, Horrified gone, and Tapestry gone. Only the adventure games is staying, and again, not for the ones that I already had, but I'm going to keep on buying new games in the series. I'm very excited about that. So next is Haze Islands. Haze Islands, this is a little box one. The designer actually sent it to me, and basically you're like kind of like ship piratey kind of guys, and you're trying to escape like this evil ghost ship that's chasing you all, and you're trying to like prevent it and destroy it before it can like take over the world or whatever. So this one's actually pretty cool. It's kind of sort of like button shy-ish, or what's the name of the game? You all are gonna laugh at me once you get this from the delay. But not Suburbia, it's like the Sprawlopolis. It's kind of like Sprawlopolis in that like the cards have multiple uses in really cool ways. But for this one, you're actually like building locations on the board and covering them with adventures and stuff. So I like a lot about the game. And I do still have this one as well. Because of COVID-19, I haven't been able to ship out things. But again, it's not staying. Now, why is it not staying? Not because I don't like it. I like it a lot. But one of my friends in France really wants the game, and I'm putting together kind of a little shipment of games that it's hard or impossible for him to get over in France, and I'm going to send them to him. So Haze Islands is one of the ones going. I will say it's pretty good solo anyway, and definitely fun competitive, and you can play cooperative as well. But there's a fan-made variant on BGG that does the solo in kind of a different way, and I think is more fun and more tense. So if you do get Haze Islands, which is one I recommend, even though I'm sending it away, I think it's still a fun game, and it's pretty cheap. If you do get that, I would check out the fan variant on BGG. I can link that in the video later once I'm done filming. And I would try that out. It kind of changes up how the AI chases you and makes the game a bit more similar to the cooperative and competitive game, which I enjoy when it kind of feels like I'm playing that more tense experience. So Haze Islands is gone, but not because I don't like it. Everything's gone so far, except for the first one, the adventure game series. All right, so I see a question about Star Wars Lord of the Rings. I'll save that for afterwards. I'm going to do a little Q&A session. So Enrique, thank you for asking that. I will get to it. It is a good question. I definitely have an answer. Yeah, sorry, Dave. It's not you or Jan. It's Razupaf, the other reviewer that I've mentioned a few times recently. All right, so let's see. We're on the back end of things. Oh, man. Here's the interesting one. Tainted Grail. Tainted Grail. So, Tainted Grail, if you don't know, this is from Awakened Realms. Sort of a dark Arthurian game, sort of inspired by Seventh Continent. And it's, an exploration game like Seventh Continent. It has this card-based combat and diplomacy system. You have these menhirs, I'm not sure how to pronounce that like kind of guide where you can go. You can't just travel as much as you want. So Tainted Grail was my #1 game of last year. Number 1 of 2019. So, and saying that kind of embarrasses me now. Not because I don't think the game isn't great. The game is a fabulous, exciting, kind of innovative design in a lot of ways. Tainted Grail does a lot of cool stuff. But a lot of you might have seen the reviews. I've certainly read some of them that talk about the late game and some problems that can crop up. And I'll freely admit for Tainted Grail, I only played 2 partial campaigns. I didn't get further than Chapter 5, I think, in either of them. So I played like through half of the game twice. And the big thing is, as I played it, so this is the one I've been playing the last several days because it's a big game. I wanted to get farther. I wanted to see like how I felt about it after a long time because I didn't get to play it much after I did the review. Yeah. Tainted Grail. This is definitely the one, by the way, since it was my number 1 of last year, that most of you voted I would keep. And this is a bracket destroyer. Because I do still have it since I was just playing it, but I'm not keeping it. So, sorry. Yeah, I see one of you canceled your pledges. So let me talk about why I'm not keeping it. I am giving it to my friends. I'm not saying it too far. I could theoretically play it again, or at least like teach it with him. A lot of the things that have been mentioned in other reviews, definitely playing it a third time through and getting farther really cropped up. It can be a real grind to get enough food. It can be a real grind to get the resources you need to light the menhirs. There's a lot of backtracking. I'll say this for Tainted Grail. When you are doing things well, and both my games, I went the same direction. I kind of followed a similar path, and it led to me being very successful. Tainted Grail, when you're doing well, is fabulous. When you aren't having too many combats and you're not kind of getting bogged down with that, when you have the food you need, when you're activating menhirs and not having to backtrack and you keep on making forward progress and seeing something. But not only that, I had to backtrack forever to get back to anything, which means getting the resources to relight menhirs and getting food again. And man, the combat system, as much as I love it, it just goes... it just goes and goes and goes. And yeah, Avis, you're saying a really good point. I'm a reviewer who plays games. My minimum is 5 games, and I shoot for 10 to 15. And usually I achieve that for almost every game I review. But even with that number of plays, I can still be excited. I can still be infatuated and make mistakes afterwards. I think this game is still going to be a great one for a ton of people. And I still like a lot about it. But I don't think I would want to play it again without a lot of variants. Like, some people have variants where the menhirs just stay active, and you can only have 3 active at a time. Or, variants for how food works, or variants for combat. So, yeah, so this one is a disappointment for me that I didn't like it as much. I was thinking I was going to go all in for Act 2 and 3. I was going to, add on that stuff. Or not Act 2 and 3, but whatever they are, the other 2 campaigns. And now I'm not planning on that. So, that's still everything gone except adventure games, including Tainted Grail. We got 2 more. Vengeance. Vengeance, if you didn't see my playthrough or my review, this was a competitive or a solo game where I love the theme. It's kind of like Kill Bill or one of those old Vengeance movies, like I Spit on Your Grave. Your character's been wronged, and you're going through, just slicing down all these people and shooting them and trying to get vengeance. Did I keep Vengeance? I did not. Actually, that was the game that the winner of last month's contest selected. So it went on to one of our giveaway winners for the Shelf Life episodes. And Dave, don't mention human interface, man. Tainted Grail is not human interface. Yeah, so Vengeance, I'd said this in my review, but the competitive play is cool. If you don't do it simultaneously, which is a little bit tough with the components, it can really bog down as you wait for each person to do their entire fight because they are pretty puzzly. So solo is better in that it's very quick. You'd fight through a series of encounters basically while leveling your character up and getting powers. The thing is, the dice mechanic, while fun, is a little bit too simplistic, and the power-ups are thus also simplistic, and I didn't feel like the game had enough legs for just the solo mode to keep it. I think once you play it a few times solo, you've kind of seen all the game has to offer. So, one is... what I should know... oh, it's Unbroken. So Unbroken is our last one. So far, I've only kept the first one, the adventure games. And again, I'm keeping the series. It's not like keeping the ones that I already have, because I've played through them. So I'm going to get, the volcano one that's coming. So Unbroken is our last one. This is... yeah, that's a good point. The rule for Shelf Life is, when in doubt, rule it out. I like that. So Unbroken is a solo-only game. It had a very tainted, haha, not Tainted Grail, but a very tainted Kickstarter because Golden Bell did all these kind of, I would say, pretty despicable, at least what I've heard. There's just here, I've heard people say. I haven't had any experience with them myself. But Golden Bell did some pretty terrible stuff. The designer is supposed to be a very nice person, so I feel bad for him. But Unbroken is a cool theme. You are stuck in a cave system or whatever after your whole party's been wiped, like a D&D-ish kind of thing. And you're trying to escape, and you're leveling up, and it's got this mechanic where you draw 2 cards and you pick one to encounter. It's really fun. So Unbroken, it's here, and it's staying. So there we go, bookended. We're keeping the first one, adventure games, and we're keeping the last one, Unbroken, and all the rest are going. So 2 out of 8, not too bad in terms of how my ratio goes for this. But yeah, Unbroken, it's a small box, as you can see. The designer is still working on expansion content that you can print for free, like new characters, which I'm very excited about. Razupaf, that I already mentioned, who's getting my Haze Islands. I think he designed one where you have a hawk that can attack for you and stuff. But I just find the core mechanics of this very fun. It's very quick. It's incredibly tense. It's very challenging, which I like in a game that's very quick like that. I am usually not going to win. I win maybe 1 out of every 4 or 5 games I play. So, again, I don't support Golden Bell. I don't like anything they've done, but the design of Unbroken, I really, really, really like. So, Unbroken is a great game. So let's get to the winner of Shelf Life, and then if y'all want to do some Q&A afterwards, we'll let us do that. So let me go to my little page here. So because of the Tainted Grail thing, that destroyed so many of you, and again, I'm sorry that I switched my opinion on that so drastically. But because of Tainted Grail, that one wrecked a bunch of you. So we only had, we only had 8 people get 7 or 8 right, and we had a single person get 100% correct. Only one person. Last time we had to draw out, I think, 4 names. We had a single person get it. Hit every single one. And that was, I'm not sure about your last name pronunciation, so sorry, Joe Sokol, or Joe Sokol, S-O-K-O-L. So Joe, you won. And, okay, you are in the United States. So I want to have to figure out international shipping during COVID-19. Joe, I'll send you an email. Congratulations. I'll give you a choice of 3 or 4 games. You'll tell me which one you want, and I'll send it along. And yeah, thank you everyone who entered. We had about 100 entries this time, and a lot of you were very close. Even with the Tainted Grail thing, there were a ton of you with 6 or 5 right. So nice job, everybody, in your guesses. And all right, let's finish this up if you want to hang out for a little bit of a question and answer. So, yeah, see, y'all kind of discussing it. So... yeah, okay, I'm going to go to Enrique's question first, and then Tom D's got a question as well. So Enrique asked, Star Wars or Lord of the Rings? I'm a big geek for both. I had, the old Star Wars role-playing game and all the source books, all the expanded material, and I knew the name of, every alien and, all the spaceships and that kind of thing. And I'm glad, Keith, I'm glad you like the Starlight stuff. And yeah, I'm glad they're adding the ship abilities as well. So Star Wars is great. I've seen every movie. Even Solo I kind of enjoyed. I am one who really loves Last Jedi, but I know a lot of people don't, so no worries about that. Rise of the Skywalker, I really hated my first viewing. I liked it better my second viewing. Yeah, so Star Wars is a big one for me, but Lord of the Rings is kind of one of my favorite things of all time. I've read The Hobbit probably 4 or 5 times. I've read the entire Lord of the Rings at least 3 times. I've read the Silmarillion all the way through at least once. Those movies are probably my top movies of all time, so I adore... Now, I'm talking about the Lord of the Rings trilogy. The Hobbit movies I had a lot of issues with, although I still enjoyed them. I like the Ralph Bakshi Hobbit, Rankin Bass. I like the Rankin Bass Hobbit and Lord of the Rings Return of the King movie they did. I even like the Ralph Bakshi Lord of the Rings with its partial thing and Aragorn having no pants. So yeah, Lord of the Rings is my favorite of all time in terms of fantasy settings. So Star Wars is great, Lord of the Rings wins. All right, let's see. So Tom D asked, I feel we as gamers get hyped for new games and often they turn out to be not so great. What do you think? Yes, absolutely. I have the benefit for a lot of these big Kickstarters in that I get to, and not a lot, not a ton of them, but some of them, that I get to play them first. And I try to hopefully give my honest opinion for pluses and minuses. But yeah, even without that, and I think most Kickstarter coverage is just yay, moonbeams and rainbows, look how amazing this is. Look how many miniatures you're getting. So yes, I think we tend to get hyped, and then some things will actually be great, and some things won't. Like for example, The Crew, which is this new trick-taking co-op game. Now I've only played like 6 times, so don't like take this as gospel. But that was very hyped in like December, and I'm thinking it is amazing. I'm really, really loving it. I'll cover that one soon. So I think the hype can be real sometimes, and I think sometimes not so much. Like Spirit Island is still my number 2 co-op of all time. Arkham Horror LCG is still my number 1. Those were hyped, but they're also great. So it all kind of depends. All right, let's see. What else? Sorry to kind of... Book you want to see made into a game that hasn't been made yet. Something I've thought about designing, or at least I'd like to see, the Mistborn Saga by Brandon Sanderson is a fantasy series that I really enjoyed, and they also have like the Wild West kind of second series that I'm also reading through. They did make a Mistborn game, but it was like the dumbest. Like nobody reads Mistborn for the house intrigue. You read it for awesome heroes using like these powers to like project things away from them and stuff. So the fact that the game they did is like house intrigue and like trying to assassinate each other's people, I felt like it was such a misstep. Like Mistborn is clearly made for a co-op game where you have different people with the different skills working through it, like almost like a dungeon crawler, I can imagine, or an adventure game. So the game they made is like a total misstep for me. So it's not that they haven't made a game of the book, it's that I just grabbed it, but I left it in the other room. The Final Girl Kickstarter prototype came yesterday. I haven't played it yet. But if you watch my pack system, but it's for Final Girl like theme in horror movie slashers, which I love horror movies. I love a lot of stuff, if you can't tell. Excuse me. So yeah, I'm super excited about that. The game I played at PAX was one of my favorite gaming experiences of all time. Now, there's a good likelihood the game won't be that good every time, but I'm hoping that I enjoy it a lot and that is a next big one for me. Besides that, Nick Skeen, who's in the chat right now and also a playtester for us, he's amazing. He sent me both Cartographers and Dawn of the Zeds. Cartographers is good, but Dawn of the Zeds, my first play of that was phenomenal. Now, you know, I haven't added in the crazy rules yet. I don't know if I'll keep enjoying it, but man, that was a good first play. So those are 2 that I'm really, really excited about. Don't blow up Rivendell with a Death Star. That's terrible. Do you find Kickstarter very quiet these days? Doesn't feel like it for me. I'm still covering a lot of stuff. Mike, will I be visiting Eschenspiel? I mean, I have no plans to go there. The only thing I could think that would probably get me to go all the way across the ocean like that is if like we had one of our big designs that hit well in Europe and we wanted to kind of promote that. But I don't know. Our next big design is like Ameritrash all the way, so I don't know if it would hit very well. Let's see. I don't know the history of influenza. I don't. So we're going to hate Final Girl in 4 months. Be quiet, Nick. Tainted Grail is a very specific thing. Let's see. All right. So, yeah, except for a little bit of discussion of Kickstarter, that seems to be all the questions I'm seeing at the moment. So, yeah, everybody, thanks for joining me for this. Thanks for your comments. Again, hope the games I picked didn't surprise you too much. I know they were a little bit off the beaten path. But, hey, that's just how I have to roll. I have to speak honestly. If I like a game and I don't like it, I'm not going to lie to you just to, like, preserve my opinion. Jay Patero, that's hilarious, combining the 2 themes. But yeah, I hope everyone stays healthy and safe out there, whatever your quarantine or social distancing like model of life currently is. It looks like I'm in the house with my wife, roommate, and 7 and 4-year-old for the foreseeable future, teaching from home. I'm slowly running out of toilet paper. Jan, when is Spare Parts launching? The publisher keeps on pushing it back. I'm not feeling too great about it. The game is done, like it's literally done, including an entire expansion, so it's not fun for me. But, yeah. All right, so everybody, have a great time. Be safe. We'll see you in another month. And, yeah, we'll have some great game coverage coming out next week. So, bye-bye, and good gaming. We'll see you at the next stop. Thanks, everybody.